I died when a vending machine fell from the third floor and crushed me under 72 cans of coffee. I opened my eyes in another world just as a noble boy shoved my new body into an awakening crystal and the academy fined me 10 gold for the blood. The crystal was taller than I was. It was also cracked from top to bottom. My borrowed shoulder hit the crack. Blue light burst through the hall. A sharp edge opened my palm, and 3 drops of blood landed on the white marble floor. The boy who had pushed me stepped back and pointed. "He broke it." More than 900 students turned toward me. That was how I met Royce. Memories filled my head. My new name was Nolan. I was a 17-year-old orphan and the highest scorer on the academy's written examination. Royce had placed second. He did not look happy about it. The man supervising the ceremony inspected the crystal for less than 1 breath. His dark robe carried the silver chain of a dean. "Damage to an awakening crystal costs 10 gold, Dorian announced. "The scholarship student will repay it through academy service." I checked my pockets. I owned 6 silver coins and a piece of string. The string looked more financially stable. "The crack was already there," a girl said. She stood beside the student council table. Her black hair was tied behind her neck, and 3 pencils rested above one ear. A brass badge identified her as Iris, the student treasurer. She held up a maintenance sheet. "The crystal lost 31 points of structural integrity last month. The repair request was rejected by the combat office." Dean Dorian did not even turn toward her. "Treasurer, the ceremony is not a mathematics lesson." "That may explain the academy's debt," Iris replied. A few students laughed. Dorian's face tightened. "You should apologize," he whispered. "If you behave, they may let you clean the stables." I looked at the broken crystal, the maintenance sheet, and the dean's silver chain. In my first life, I had checked invoices for a company that sold office chairs. I had learned one important truth. A man who refused to look at a number was usually afraid of it. I did not apologize. Dorian ordered 2 guards to drag away the damaged crystal. Then he pointed me toward a small grey orb at the end of the platform. "The primary crystal cannot be used. Nolan will awaken through the civil service orb." The civil orb produced cooks, cleaners, clerks, and stable hands. Its classes received no dungeon rights and occupied the bottom of the academy ranking. I placed my bleeding hand on the grey orb. The light inside it flickered once. A dry voice spoke inside my head. "Class awakened. Accountant." For 1 heartbeat, the hall became silent. Then 900 students laughed. Someone near the front asked if I planned to defeat monsters with unpaid bills. Someone else shouted that I could count the pieces after Royce cut me apart. The public ranking board changed above the platform. Royce appeared in first place with the class Flame Knight. My name appeared at the very bottom. Nolan, accountant. Rank 998 out of 998. Royce placed one hand over his heart and bowed to me. "Please count carefully, great warrior. I would hate to receive the wrong change." The crowd laughed again. Even several instructors smiled. I looked at my last place ranking for 3 seconds. Then I memorized it. Numbers were useful because they did not care who was laughing. Dean Dorian removed my combat badge in front of everyone. He replaced it with a plain wooden tag and assigned me to the underground accounts office. The academy had spent 2 gold feeding me during my first month, he explained. Until my new debt was paid, half of my wages would be withheld. My daily wage was 3 silver. Iris watched as the guards led me away. She did not look sorry for me. She looked curious. The accounts office occupied a basement beneath the eastern lecture hall. It smelled of dust, ink, and old leather. Shelves leaned against one another like tired soldiers. Bundles of receipts covered 6 long tables. An elderly clerk named Wendell gave me a stool with 1 short leg and 2,400 pages of combat expenses to check before midnight. Then he escaped upstairs. I sat down. The stool tilted left. I folded the piece of string from my pocket and placed it beneath the short leg. My finances were still terrible, but my furniture had improved. I began to work. The accountant class did not make my hands faster. It did something better. The moment I focused on an entry, I understood the value behind it. A crate listed as 20 new swords contained 4 repaired blades and 16 pieces of scrap. A ceremonial banner had somehow consumed 300 units of mana every week, although cloth did not usually eat. By sunset, I had found 43 false entries worth 87 gold. By moonrise, I had found Royce's name. He had charged the Academy 30 gold for a tournament sword. The attached shop receipt showed 8 gold. The remaining 22 had been sent to a private training account. I copied the entry onto a clean sheet. "You work quickly." Iris stood in the doorway with a lantern and a paper bag. She had removed the pencils from her hair, but ink covered 2 of her fingers. "You came to check whether I could count," I said. "I came because the last 3 students assigned here ran away before dinner." She placed the bag on my table. Warm air carried the smell of meat, pepper, and baked pastry. "One ran away through a window," she added. I looked around the basement. There were no windows. "He made one." I opened the bag. Inside were 2 small meat pies. "Is this a bribe?" I asked. "The student council meal allowance is 4 copper per person. Those cost 3 copper each. If it is a bribe, it is a disappointing one." I gave her Royce's invoice. Her expression changed after the second line. "Where did you find this?" "Page 1912. "I checked these accounts last week." Someone replaced the summary page. The ink on the false total is 6 days old. The supporting receipt is 6 months old. Iris compared them beneath the lantern. Then she looked at me as if the wooden tag around my neck had turned into a crown. "You found 87 gold in one evening." 87 gold and 4 silver. Of course you counted the silver. The silver did nothing wrong. At midnight, the academy bell rang 12 times. The gray class mark on my wrist became hot. The room disappeared from my sight for half a breath. I saw 3 roads made from pale numbers. A cold voice named them, without showing me a window or a page. The heavenly counter could observe every value. The mage of balance could make 2 values equal. The lord of exchange could move an existing value between valid targets. I chose the lord of exchange. The cold voice spoke again. "One law may now be broken. A recognized value no longer belongs permanently to its source." Knowledge entered my mind with the clean weight of a balanced account. I could transfer mana into mana, durability into durability, force into force, and damage into damage. I could not create a single point. I could not move age, talent, level, luck, or money. Both targets had to be close enough for me to touch. My limit was 20 points in one transfer and 100 points before the next midnight. Every 20 points cost 1 unit of my mana, rounded upward. My body held 12 units of mana. It was not unlimited power. It was a very sharp pencil. Iris had stepped back. "Your class mark changed," she said. I touched the nearest shelf. The moment my fingers reached the iron frame, I knew it possessed 80 points of durability. The battered shield beside my chair possessed 3 out of 40. "Watch the shelf," I said. I put my other hand on the shield and transferred 20 points. Cold pressure ran through both arms. 1 point of mana vanished from my body. Rust spread across the shelf as its durability fell from 80 to 60. At the same time, a long split in the shield closed. Its durability rose from 3 to 23. Iris dropped her lantern. I caught it before it hit the floor. She stared at the shield. Then she hit it with the handle of a paper knife. The metal rang. You repaired it without repair magic. I moved 20 points of durability. From the shelf. The shelf had more than it needed. Iris looked from the shield to the rusted iron. That is not accounting. It is exactly accounting. The basement door slammed open. Royce entered with 2 members of his training group. He was still wearing his red academy coat. A silver sword hung from his belt, and his smile had the calm confidence of a man who had never received his own bill. Behind him came Wendell and 10 night clerks. Royce had ordered them to leave. Wendell had refused because the monthly accounts were due in the morning. The clerks gathered near the back wall, clutching ledgers like thin shields. Royce saw Iris, then saw the invoice in her hand. His smile disappeared. That paper belongs to the combat office. It belongs to the academy, Iris said. Give it to me. No. Royce's 2 friends moved toward her. I stepped between them. Royce looked at my wooden tag. You had one bad day and forgot your position? My position is beside page 1912. Several clerks made choking sounds. One of them hid a laugh inside a cough. Royce's face reddened. An accountant should learn what happens when he challenges a flame knight. He drew back his fist. My new sight recognized the forming action. His physical strike held 18 points of force. My prepared palm strike held 4. He was stronger than I was. The difference was 14. The witnesses saw him attack first. That mattered. His fist came toward my mouth. I caught his wrist with my left hand and touched my own right forearm with 2 fingers. I transferred 18 points of force. 1 point of mana left me. Royce's fist tapped my cheek with 0 force. It felt like an angry feather. The basement became silent. Royce stared at his hand. What? I struck his chest with my open palm. My 4 points of force had become 22. Royce flew backward across the room, passed between his 2 friends, and landed inside a cart filled with dirty cleaning cloths. The cart rolled into a stack of empty buckets. 12 buckets fell over him one after another. The final bucket covered his head. No one spoke for 3 breaths. Then Wendell began to clap. The 10 clerks joined him. One laughed so hard that he had to sit on the floor. Royce's friends stopped moving toward Iris and carefully moved away from her instead. Royce tore the bucket off his head. He cheated! You punched an unarmed civil student in front of 13 witnesses, Iris said. Please explain which part of that required him to fight fairly. Wendell raised 1 finger. 14 witnesses. I count as 2 when I am angry. Royce climbed out of the cart. A grey cloth hung from his shoulder like a defeated flag. I lifted the copied invoice. You charged 30 gold for an 8 gold sword. You also attacked the clerk who found the entry. If I were you, I would stop adding evidence. 2 clerks fetched the academy guard while another copied the invoice. Royce finally understood that he could not burn every copy. He pointed at me. Dean Dorian will destroy you. He should submit a request in writing. The guards arrived while the clerks were still laughing. By the time Royce was escorted upstairs, the story had already reached the dormitories. By the time Iris and I carried the corrected accounts to the student council, someone had written 0 fist accountant on the public message board. At 1 in the morning, Rector Silas reviewed the crystal maintenance report. The crack had existed for 37 days. My 10 gold debt was cancelled. The fraud rules awarded me 5% of recovered funds. The first confirmed entries were worth 100 gold, so I received 5. The public ranking board moved my name from 998th place to 721st. I was still below 3 students whose classes involved decorative flowers. Progress was progress. The hidden voice informed me that public verification of my first balance transfer had strengthened my class. My maximum mana rose from 12 to 18. My limit rose from 20 to 40 points per transfer and from 100 to 200 points per day. Power, money, and reputation had all increased before breakfast. I approved of this world's accounting period. Iris walked with me through the sleeping academy. Neither of us had eaten the second meat pie. It had been crushed when Royce hit the cleaning cart. "There is a place outside the east gate," I said. "Wendell mentioned it 6 times. That means it is either excellent or cheap." "Both." Amos's dining room occupied the ground floor of a narrow wooden house. A painted red bowl hung above the door. Amos was a broad old man with white hair, thick arms, and an apron that looked strong enough to stop an arrow. He did not ask why 2 students arrived after midnight carrying ledgers. He placed deep bowls in front of us and filled them with beef stew. The broth was dark and glossy. Soft pieces of beef separated beneath my spoon. Potatoes had absorbed the flavor of onions, carrots, black pepper, and roasted bone. Amos added fresh parsley, then cut a round loaf of bread. Steam escaped from the center. Butter melted across each slice and ran into the crust. For several minutes, the world contained no corrupt invoices and no angry flame knights. It contained hot stew. That was enough. Iris dipped bread into the broth. "You were not afraid of Royce?" "I was." "You did not look afraid." "Fear is a cost. Showing it to Royce would not have purchased anything." She studied me over her bowl. "Everyone saw an accountant today." "And you?" "I saw the only person in that hall who checked the total before accepting it." Amos returned with 2 baked apples covered in honey and crushed nuts. Iris tried to pay. He pushed her coins back. "Wendell sent a runner," he said. "The boy who put Royce in a laundry cart eats free tonight." "Only tonight?" I asked. "Put a dean in the cart and we can discuss a monthly plan." Iris laughed for the first time. After the meal, we returned to the basement to lock the corrected ledgers away. I should have gone to sleep. Instead, one repeated entry caught my attention. It appeared once every year. 12,000 units of refined manna left the Academy Reserve without a department name, delivery receipt, or authorizing seal. The same amount had vanished for 80 years. The total was 960,000 units of manna. Iris stood beside me as I opened the oldest surviving book. A single line had been written across the bottom in faded black ink. World balance. The stone floor moved beneath our feet. Every crystal lamp in the basement dimmed at the same moment. I felt 1 unit of manna leave my body and sink through the soles of my boots. Far below us, something struck the underside of the academy 3 times. The ancient ledger turned its own page. Fresh red letters appeared on the paper. The annual payment was 12,000 units overdue. The receiver was named Newlam. Collection would begin at dawn. At dawn, every student in the academy lost 2 units of manna. I knew the exact number because I lost 2 as well. The drain passed through the floor like cold water. Crystal lamps went dark. Training wards failed. More than 100 students fell to their knees in the central courtyard. 3 first-year majors fainted beside the fountain. Then the shouting began. Some blamed an enemy attack. Some blamed a curse. One student blamed breakfast. He had eaten 6 eggs and looked willing to blame breakfast for many things. Iris and I reached the courtyard as Celine, the academy healer, knelt beside a small boy with white lips. His class had given him only 4 units of manna. Losing 2 had placed his heart under magical strain. "I need a manna potion," Celine called. The infirmary doors were locked behind a failed ward. The nearest full source was the decorative fountain. Its blue core still held 160 units. I touched the core with one hand and the boy's shoulder with the other. My transfer limit had risen during the night. Finding and publicly recording an imbalance worth 960,000 units had increased my maximum transfer from 40 to 120 points. My daily limit had become 600. My body now held 40 units of mana. I moved 12 units from the fountain into the boy. 1 unit paid the cost. Color returned to his face. Celine stared at me. You restored his mana without a potion. The fountain had too much. Around us, at least 200 students had seen the blue light leave the fountain and enter the boy. Whispers crossed the courtyard. Zero Fist Accountant became Mana Accountant before I had time to stand. Iris pointed toward the ranking tower. My name moved from 721st place to 580th. You gained 141 places for touching a fountain, she said. Royce will be upset. He trains much harder than the fountain. The boy opened his eyes. His older sister hugged him, then tried to press 3 silver coins into my hand. I refused. Saving him had cost me 1 unit of mana, not a lifetime of debt. The crowd noticed that too. By the time Dean Dorian arrived, students were already repeating the exact numbers. 2 mana taken from every student, 12 restored to the weakest victim. 1 fountain lowered from 160 to 148. Public numbers were difficult to bury. Dorian tried. He climbed onto the fountain wall and announced that the drain had been a harmless ward adjustment. Celine stood behind him, holding the unconscious first years. His explanation landed like a chair with 1 leg missing. I held up the ancient ledger. The Academy owes Newlam 12,000 units. This morning's collection took almost 2,000. What is Newlam? The courtyard quieted. Dorian looked at the red writing and then at Iris. That ledger is sealed material. It was lying beneath unpaid lunch receipts, Iris said. You had no authority to read it. Did we need authority to lose mana? I asked. The students answered with an angry murmur. Dorian's eyes moved across the crowd. He could not punish me in front of 200 witnesses without confirming that I had found something real. So he smiled. Nolan wishes to prove that an accountant can serve the Academy. We should allow him. I had seen that smile in my first life. Managers used it before assigning work that required 3 people, no budget, and a miracle. Dorian ordered me to perform a complete inventory of the combat warehouse before sunset. If I found evidence of missing mana, he would open the sealed accounts. If I failed, I would surrender my wooden tag and leave the academy. The crowd reacted at once. Students rushed toward the message board. Bets appeared before Dorian finished speaking. The odds against me were 20 to 1. Iris placed 1 silver on my victory. Only 1? I asked. Student council funds cannot be used for gambling. That is your own coin. I also dislike gambling. Then why bet? It is not gambling when I have checked the numbers. The combat warehouse stood beside the western training field. More than 80 students followed us there. Wendell came with 6 clerks. Celine came because she expected someone to need bandages. Barton, the tournament announcer, brought a speaking crystal because he expected someone to need an audience. The warehouse doors opened and Kellen stepped out. He was a thick man with a shaved head and shoulders almost as wide as the doorway. His armor was polished black. Gold letters across the chest declared it to be a 200-point fortress suit. This is a restricted military store, he said. Accountants count spoons. Then your sword should be safe, I replied. The students laughed. Kellen did not. He had a reason to fear the inventory. The first rack was supposed to hold 40 new silver-steel swords. It held 4. 12 blades were ordinary iron painted silver. The rest of the rack was empty. The invoice claimed a cost of 400 gold. The actual stock was worth 62. On the second rack, 30 healing shields had become 6 cracked shields and 24 round pieces of painted wood. 1 still carried bark. The crowd stopped laughing. I read each count aloud. Iris wrote the numbers on a portable board. Wendell and his clerks checked every item in front of the students. Kellen crossed his arms. The missing equipment was consumed during elite training. Then there should be usage records. Combat work cannot be reduced to paper. Your requests reduced it to 400 gold. Barton repeated my answer through the speaking crystal. Laughter rolled across the field. Kellen's jaw tightened. He pointed toward the final storage hall. The real inventory is inside, if you are brave enough to enter. I knew it was a trap before the door opened. The iron training golem inside possessed a combat core worth 70 gold. It was supposed to remain inactive without an instructor's key. Kellen's right hand was resting on that key. Iris saw it too. "The safety seal is broken," she said. Kellen turned the key. The golem woke. It stood 4 times my height. Its stone fist was larger than Amos's cooking pot and much less useful. Red light filled the lines across its chest. Students backed away from the warehouse. Kellen remained beside the exit. "An inventory clerk should be able to inspect academy equipment," he said. The golem swung at me. Its fist carried 120 points of damage. My limit was exactly 120. I could move all of it, but every valid transfer I had performed used one source and one receiver. No single object near me could survive the whole value. The nearest iron rack had only 30 points of remaining durability. Behind it stood 11 more racks. The answer was obvious. A payment did not need to go to one account. I held out my hand and divided the incoming damage into 12 equal parts. 10 points entered each rack. 6 units of my mana vanished as the fee. The golem's fist touched my forehead with no remaining damage. At the same instant, 12 iron racks bent in the middle. The sound rang through the warehouse like 12 giant spoons hitting 12 metal bowls. The crowd went silent. I stepped away from the golem's fist. "The inventory contains 12 damaged racks," I said. Barton lowered his speaking crystal. "He divided the attack," one student whispered. "Among 12 targets," another answered. Iris's pencil stopped moving. Her eyes were bright. "One source," she said. "Multiple receivers." The hidden class mark burned against my wrist. The Lord of Exchange accepted the transaction as valid. Kellen turned the control key again. The golem raised both fists. "Stop it," Celine shouted. "He passed your test." "The machine is malfunctioning," Kellen said. He was lying. I could see the control value moving beneath his thumb. The second attack held 180 points of damage. It exceeded my limit. Kellen's fortress suit stood 3 paces away. Its polished plates held 200 points of durability, exactly as the gold letters promised. I needed time for 2 transfers. I kicked a wooden shield toward the golem. Its first fist crushed the shield and spent 60 points of damage. The second fist descended with the remaining 120. I touched the golem's arm and sent the full value into Kellen's armor. The black plates folded inward. They did not injure him. The suit's safety enchantment locked every joint before the damage reached his body. Kellen became a rigid metal statue with his knees bent and his arms stretched forward. Then he fell backward into an open crate of training feathers. The crate broke. White feathers exploded across the field. Kellen lay in the center wearing a black metal suit and enough feathers to resemble a very angry chicken. 80 students saw it. 6 clerks saw it. Celine saw it and sat down because she was laughing too hard to stand. Barton raised the speaking crystal. "The 200-point fortress suit has been defeated by warehouse stock." The training field erupted. Kellen shouted from inside the locked armor. His words were difficult to understand, but none sounded like an apology. Iris took the control key from the ground and shut down the golem. Then she opened the small office behind it. We found the missing usage records inside a locked desk. Kellen had not sold the weapons for personal luxury. He had diverted 338 gold into Royce's elite team. The Academy's combat grant depended on winning the Royal Tournament. Kellen believed one champion was worth more than 200 ordinary students. That motive explained the fraud. It did not excuse the golem. I read his written instruction aloud in front of the crowd. Civil students may be exposed to full combat conditions because their loss does not affect the Academy ranking. The laughter stopped. Kellen's own words destroyed what remained of his reputation. Rector Silas arrived with the Academy guard. He suspended Kellen before the man could be cut out of his feather-covered armor. The recovered equipment, false invoices, and witness statements were placed under Student Council seal. My 5% recovery share came to 30 gold after the first 600 gold of fraud was confirmed. I also received 12 unused monster cores from the hidden office. Each core held 20 units of mana and was worth 3 gold. My resources had grown from 5 gold to 35 gold, 12 cores, and 1 official warehouse key. The ranking board moved my name from 580th place to 305th. Students crowded around it. Someone erased Zero Fist Accountant and wrote Damage Accountant. Someone else added Chicken Inspector beneath it. I did not approve the second title, but public opinion rarely submitted receipts. The class rewarded the verified division of damage. My mana capacity rose from 40 to 60. My maximum transfer rose to 300 points, my daily limit to 1,500, and my working distance to 3 paces. I had enough power to survive a stronger attack. I also had enough money to buy dinner. Amos served chicken noodle soup that evening. He claimed the menu had been planned before he heard about Kellen. No one believed him. The broth was golden and rich. Thick noodles curled around pieces of roasted chicken, sweet carrots, green herbs, and soft onions. Amos placed fried mushrooms beside the bowls and brought honey buns with crisp brown tops. When I broke mine open, steam carried the smell of butter and cinnamon across the table. Iris ate 2 buns while insisting that mathematicians required more sugar than ordinary people. "Is that proven?" I asked. "It will be when I finish the 3rd bun." She placed 1 gold coin between us. "My class is Coin Weaver. I can convert stored value into mana. 1 gold produces 20 units." The coin melted into warm light above her palm. She guided the light into one of my empty monster cores. The core filled completely. "Your ability destroys money," I said. "Converts. The money is gone. You threw a man into feathers. The feathers remained." Amos leaned across the counter. "If you two plan to argue about money every evening, I will charge rent for the table." Iris looked down at her soup. The tips of her ears turned red. I concentrated on my 3rd honey bun. After dinner, we returned to the warehouse with Wendell. The inventory had proven that refined mana entered the combat department, but none remained in its official stores. Kellen's private records contained the answer. Every month, 1,000 units were loaded into 12 black canisters. The canisters were delivered to a room beneath the tournament arena. Each delivery carried Dean Dorian's personal seal. We found the newest canister behind a false wall. It was empty, but the copper pipe attached to its base was warm. I placed my hand against it. Mana was moving downward. Far beneath us, Newlam held 48,000 units more than its safe capacity. The ancient ledger had called that number a debt. My accountant site called it an excess. Before I could tell Iris, every public message board in the Academy flashed red. Dean Dorian had issued an emergency challenge. At noon the next day, Nolan the accountant would enter the Royal Tournament qualifier. His opponent would be Royce, the Academy champion. If I refused, every accusation against the combat faculty would be dismissed. If I accepted, Royce was authorized to use lethal force. I accepted before the message finished glowing. Every student in the courtyard saw my name turn green on the challenge board. Cheers came from the civil dormitories. The combat tower answered with angry shouts. The betting odds changed from 20-1 against me to 6-1. Iris placed another silver on my victory. "Your confidence has doubled," I said. "Your sample size has doubled." Dean Dorian sent a guard to summon me before breakfast. His office stood at the top of the combat tower. Portraits of former champions covered the walls. Each champion held a sword, a staff, or a dead monster. None held a ledger. The Academy had clearly ignored its most dangerous weapon. Dorian waited behind a black desk. A leather pouch sat in front of him. 100 gold, he said. "Withdraw from the tournament and sign a statement admitting that Kellen acted alone." I opened the pouch and counted the coins. There were 98. "You are short by 2. Dorian's mouth opened. Iris stood outside the half-open door with a recording crystal hidden inside her student treasury badge. She had predicted the bribe. She had not predicted that Dorian would underpay it. "You are discussing your funeral," Dorian said. "Then the missing 2 gold must be a burial fee." He leaned forward. "Royce's Flame Lion has 600 points of attack. You have no combat skill, no armor, no sponsor. When he kills you, the Academy will call it an accident." "How much did the Academy budget for the accident?" Dorian swept the pouch off the desk. Gold scattered across the floor. "Get out." I left the coins where they fell. Taking them would have created an unclear entry. Amos had prepared breakfast before sunrise. His dining room was packed with civil students wearing wooden tags. They moved aside when Iris and I entered, then raised their spoons like soldiers raising swords. Amos placed a cast-iron pan on our table. Eggs rested on fried potatoes with crisp edges. Thick slices of bacon curled beside roasted tomatoes. Fresh bread arrived warm enough to melt the yellow butter in a single stroke. He poured sweet milk tea scented with cinnamon and orange peel. "Eat everything," he told me. "Heroes who fight before breakfast become memorial statues." "What happens to heroes who eat too much?" "They become larger statues." Iris cut one roasted tomato in half. "Dorian said the Flame Lion holds 600 attack points." He was trying to frighten me. "Was he successful?" "Yes," she paused. "You admit fear very easily." "Fear is information. Panic is an expense." I ate the second egg and reviewed my resources. My daily transfer limit had reset at midnight. I could move 300 points in one transaction and 1,500 during the day. My body held 60 mana. Iris carried 12 monster cores, including one filled with the 20 mana created from her gold. Royce's final attack exceeded my maximum by 300 points. I needed to grow before the final match. The Royal Qualifier filled the Academy arena by mid-morning. 1,200 students, instructors, merchants and city residents occupied the stone seats. The public ranking tower rose behind the northern stands. Barton's voice rolled over the field through 6 speaking crystals. "Our first contestant is the Academy's champion, Royce." Royce entered through the golden gate. His red armor shone. Fire followed each step. The combat students stood and roared his name. "Our second contestant is Nolan." Barton paused. "His registered class remains accountant." The civil students stood together. "Check his receipt," they shouted. I walked through the grey gate carrying the repaired shield from the basement. Royce pointed his sword at me. "You should have taken the money." There were only 98 coins. The closest spectators heard me. The sentence moved through the arena in waves. People began counting imaginary coins in the air. Dorian signaled Barton to begin the qualifier trials before the rumor reached every seat. The first trial released 3 stone wolves. Together they possessed 180 points of durability and attacks worth 40 points each. Ordinary contestants defeated them one at a time. Dorian opened all 3 cages at once. The wolves charged from different directions. I waited until the first jumped. Then I touched its stone jaw with my shield and moved 60 durability points out of its body. I sent 30 into my shield and 15 into each of the other wolves. The first wolf became brittle and shattered against the shield. The other two became stronger. The crowd made a confused sound. Royce laughed from the waiting platform. "He strengthened his enemies." I had. That gave them 90 durability each. It also gave me 2 identical accounts. When the wolves attacked together, I divided the 80 points of incoming damage between them. 40 entered each body. Their new durability fell to 50. I repeated the transfer on the next attack. Both wolves cracked from nose to tail and collapsed at the same moment. 6 units of mana paid the total fees. Barton looked at the 3 piles of stone. "The accountant has completed the first trial in 42 seconds. The public board displayed the previous civil class record, 11 minutes. The civil stands exploded with cheers. My ranking rose from 305th to 182nd. The betting odds fell to 3-1. Royce stopped laughing. The second trial was supposed to test movement. Contestants crossed a field while enchanted pillars fired blunt mana bolts. Dorian doubled the number of active pillars from 10 to 20. Iris saw the control panel change and pointed it out to the spectators around her. Soon half the arena was counting the bolts aloud. 1, 2, 3. I ran. The first wave contained 200 points of damage. I split it across the 20 pillars. Each pillar struck itself with 10 points. Cracks appeared in their crystal tips. The second wave contained another 200. I repeated the exchange. The pillars broke in order behind me, left to right, like a row of expensive glass bottles pushed from a shelf. I crossed the field without being hit. Barton announced my time. 9 seconds. The academy record had been 12. For the first time that day, the combat students stood for me too. The ranking tower moved my name to 54th place. The odds became even. The Lord of Exchange responded to the publicly verified transfers. My mana capacity rose from 60 to 120. My maximum transaction increased from 300 to 700 points. My daily total became 3,000. My range expanded to 20 paces as long as I could clearly identify both targets. The larger capacity added 60 fresh units, leaving me with 89 mana. I had crossed the number I needed. Dean Dorian had seen the tower change. He spoke to an arena worker. A dark pulse moved through the floor. My remaining mana fell from 89 to 12. The arena suppression ward had drained me. The crowd did not notice. Royce did. He smiled again. Iris rose from her seat. She held up the filled monster core. Joran, captain of the Academy Guard, blocked the stairs. "No outside weapons may enter the arena." "It is not a weapon," Iris said. "It is an accounting supply." Joran looked at the glowing core. "That is concentrated mana. So is a mage. You allowed 1,200 of those inside." The people close enough to hear began laughing. Joran struggled for several seconds, then stepped aside. He was a fair man trapped inside a foolish order. Iris reached the barrier around the field. She could not cross it, but my new range reached her. I touched my wrist and transferred the 20 mana from her core into my body. 1 mana vanished as the fee. My reserve rose to 31. Iris placed a second gold coin in her palm. It dissolved into another 20 units, then a third. She filled the core twice more. I drew both charges through the barrier. 2 mana paid the fees, leaving my reserve at 69. "How many are you willing to spend?" I called. "I budgeted 10. That is 200 mana. Try not to make dying more expensive." The audience had seen everything. Merchants began calculating the value of her class. Students began calculating something else. Several girls near Iris whispered, then looked from her to me and smiled. Iris noticed and turned her attention to the coins with great force. Royce entered the field for the final match. The suppression ward shut down behind him. He did not want his own mana drained. That decision proved Dorian had activated it deliberately. More than 1,000 witnesses saw my mana return the moment the ward vanished. The crowd booed the Dean's platform. Dorian signaled for the match to start. Royce attacked before Barton gave the word. His sword released a wave of fire worth 180 attack points. I moved 150 into the stone beneath his boots and left 30 in the wave. The fire reached me as a hot breeze. The floor beneath Royce exploded upward. It did not injure him, but it threw him onto his back. The crowd laughed. He stood with smoke rising from his hair. "Fight me with your own power." "I am. You brought most of it." He roared and filled his sword with mana. This was the attack Dorian had described. Fire formed above the arena. It became a lion 20 paces long, with a mane brighter than the sun and claws made from compressed flame. The flame lion held 640 points of attack. My own prepared punch held 8. Royce raised the sword. I reached for the lion's value and met resistance. The spell belonged to Royce. The world considered the mana, the fire, and the attack a single extension of him. No ordinary skill could separate them. But the lion had not struck yet. It was an unfinished action. An unfinished action still had a number, and every number needed an account. I selected the spell as the source and my punch as the receiver. I transferred 600 points of attack. 30 mana vanished from my body. The giant flame lion shrank in the air. Its 20-pace body became the size of a house, then a horse, then a dog. What finally landed on my shield was a small fire cat with 40 points of attack. It bounced off the metal, flew backward, and struck Royce in the face. His eyebrows caught fire. The Academy champion dropped his sword and slapped both hands over his forehead. The arena became completely silent. I crossed the distance between us. My fist carried 608 points of force. I struck the center of his breastplate. The protection ward kept his body alive. It did not keep him inside the arena. Royce flew over the boundary wall, passed above Dean Dorian's platform, and landed in the enormous victory banner behind it. The cloth tore loose. It wrapped around him from head to boots and dropped him into the Dean's chair. For a moment, Dorian sat with the Academy champion folded across his lap like a very large red baby. Barton stared at them. Then he lifted the speaking crystal. "Royce has left the arena. Nolan wins." The sound from the stands shook dust from the stone arches. Civil students jumped over the benches. Combat students shouted my name. Merchants threw betting slips into the air. The public ranking tower removed Royce from first place and displayed Nolan, accountant, as the Academy's new number 1. Royce fought his way out of the banner. "Disqualify him," he screamed. "He stole my attack." "Correct," Barton said into the crystal. It was very visible. The cheers doubled. Dean Dorian pushed Royce aside and stood. "The match is invalid. Nolan used an unregistered combat class." Iris climbed onto the student council platform. "Then let us register the evidence." She placed her treasury badge against the arena crystal. Dorian's voice filled the stadium. 100 gold. Withdraw from the tournament and sign a statement admitting that Kellen acted alone. Then my voice answered through every speaker. There were 98. The entire arena turned toward Dorian. Iris displayed Kellen's records next. The dates, amounts, and personal seals appeared across the ranking tower. 40 swords became 4. 400 gold became 62. 12,000 units of mana vanished each year. Every transfer ended beneath the arena. Wendell and 6 clerks stood together and raised their verified copies. Dorian tried to order the speaking crystals shut down. The arena workers ignored him. Rector Silas removed the silver chain from Dorian's shoulders in front of 1,200 witnesses. "Pending a royal investigation, you are suspended as dean." The civil stands began a new chant. "Count the chain! Count the chain!" Dorian looked at the students, the merchants, the instructors, and the champion still wrapped in torn cloth. His authority had reached 0 without my help. He ran, not toward the arena exit, toward the sealed stair beneath his platform. Joran and the guards followed. Iris and I followed them. The crowd could not enter the narrow passage, but Barton carried a speaking crystal behind us. Every word continued to reach the arena. Dorian reached a black iron door and pressed his blood against the seal. The lock opened. Warm blue light rolled up the stairs. I could feel 48,000 excess mana below. Dorian turned toward me. Without the silver chain, he looked smaller. "You think I stole it?" he said. "I followed the capital's orders. Every dean has paid the balance for 1,000 years. Why?" "Because Lord Valric said the world would break if we stopped." He pulled an emergency lever. The arena floor shook. Joran seized him, but the lever remained down. Stone doors closed across the passage. Something vast moved behind the black iron wall. Rector Silas awarded the tournament victory before the evacuation began. The prize was 300 gold, permanent access to the restricted accounts, and the champion's crystal badge. My class strengthened again. My mana capacity became 200. My maximum transfer became 1,000 points. My daily limit became 5,000. My range reached 50 paces. Power, money, and status had all reached numbers I had not expected 3 days earlier. None of them made the thing behind the wall feel smaller. Amos found us in the evacuation yard after sunset. He had packed roasted chicken between thick slices of bread. The skin was crisp with salt and herbs. Soft meat soaked the warm bread with juice. He had added sharp cheese, pickled cucumber, and a small jar of mustard. For dessert, he gave Iris and me round cakes filled with hot plum jam. We sat on an overturned supply crate while guards cleared the arena. Iris leaned against my shoulder for one quiet minute. "I spent 3 gold keeping you alive," she said. "I won 300. "A good return. Is that why you are leaning on me?" She did not move. "I am protecting my investment." The ground jumped beneath us. The black door under the arena burst outward. A hand made from dark stone rose through the tournament field. Each finger was longer than a house. Blue mana leaked through cracks in its skin. One enormous eye opened below the broken floor. The speaking crystals carried a voice from beneath the academy to every person in the city. "Balance incorrect." Nulam had awakened. By sunrise, my tournament prize was frozen, the city gates were sealed, and an imperial official had announced that I was responsible for the giant hand in the arena. My mana had recovered to its full 200 during the night. The hand remained above the academy wall. It did not move again, but blue light pulsed beneath its cracked stone skin. Each pulse made cups shake on tables across the city. Lord Valric arrived in a silver carriage pulled by 6 armored horses. 50 imperial guards marched ahead of him. 12 clerks followed behind him carrying locked metal cases. I respected anyone who brought 12 clerks to a monster attack. I respected him less when he ordered them to seize our records. Valric stepped into the evacuation square wearing a white coat with silver scales embroidered across the chest. He was tall, gray-haired, and calm. The imperial seal on his collar gave him authority over every magical reserve in the kingdom. His first act was to release Dorian from Joran's custody. "The former dean followed a sealed capital directive," Valric announced. "His suspension is reversed until the balance emergency ends." Hundreds of evacuated students reacted with angry shouts. Dorian climbed out of the guard cart. He had found a replacement silver chain and an enchanted blue mantle. He looked at me with the happy expression of a rat returning to a bakery. Valric raised one hand. The embroidered scales on his coat shone, and the square became quiet. "Nulam is an ancient foundation vessel," he said. "It absorbs magical imbalance before that imbalance reaches the land. The Academy's annual payment has maintained it for 1,000 years. I held up the black ledger. "Nulam has 48,000 units above its safe capacity." "Incorrect." "I can see the value. You possess a civilian class that awakened 3 days ago. And you possess a giant hand in your arena." The students laughed. Valric did not look offended. That made him more dangerous than Dorian. One of his clerks opened a metal case. Inside rested an ancient sheet of silver covered in small symbols. "The imperial formula records a debt of 48,000, Valric said. "At sunrise tomorrow, the Academy will provide 50,000 units of mana. The excess 2,000 will reinforce the seal." Celine stepped forward. "The entire Academy reserve holds less than 12,000. The remainder will be collected from the students and staff." The square went still. Most first-year students held between 20 and 80 units of mana. Taking 100 from each person would not make them tired. It would stop their hearts. Valric knew that. "Estimated fatalities are 140, he said. "If Nullum fails, estimated fatalities exceed 3 million. The calculation is unfortunate, but clear." He did not smile. He did not enjoy the number. He had simply accepted it. That was his motive. He believed a smaller column of deaths could be placed against a larger one. I understood his arithmetic. I rejected his account. "Give Iris and me access to the original formula," I said. "We will prove the direction is reversed." "No." "Why?" "Because doubt spreads faster than truth during a crisis. So does fire." "Remove him." Imperial guards closed around me. Students moved between us before the guards reached me. Civil students came first, then healers, then members of the combat faculty who had watched Royce leave the arena inside a banner. Within seconds, more than 300 students stood in front of me. The Academy ranking tower still displayed my name in first place. Valric studied the crowd. He changed his order. My tournament prize of 300 gold was frozen. My warehouse key was taken. Iris lost access to the student treasury. I was confined to the evacuation square under guard until the collection. He could not arrest me without causing a riot, so he placed the entire Academy around my prison. At midday, Valric began a test collection. He claimed it was needed to measure Nullum's response. Imperial clerks installed 12 silver pillars around the square. Every student was ordered to stand inside the circle. Iris and I stood near the center with Celine. Barton had kept one speaking crystal hidden beneath his coat. He connected it to the city mirrors. The test would be seen in the Academy, the streets, and the Capitol Audit Hall. Valric knew about the broadcast. He allowed it. He believed the test would prove him right. The silver pillars activated. 10 units of mana left every student. The total collection reached 9,700 units. Cries filled the square. Younger students collapsed. The boy I had helped at the fountain fell again, despite Celine's attempt to shield him. All 9,700 units entered the pipe beneath the arena. Nullum's hand moved, one finger pressed into the ground. The stones split across the square. 12 ancient figures climbed from the cracks. They were shaped like armored men without faces. Each carried a black chain. The value inside them identified them as collection guardians. Valric looked at his silver formula. For the first time, his calm expression changed. "They should remain inactive," he said. The guardians attacked the students. Joran's guards formed a wall. The first black chain passed through 3 shields and struck 6 people. Celine was thrown against a pillar. A red line opened across her side. The second chain swept through the civil students. The square became chaos. I moved towards Celine, but an Imperial guard held my arm. "Lord Valric ordered you confined." Joran punched him in the helmet. "The order has become inconvenient," Joran said. He released me. I reached Celine. Her body held 80 points of recorded damage. The wound had already happened. The chain was no longer moving. Under every known rule, there was nothing left for me to intercept. But the number remained. Damage was not only an event, it was also a balance carried by the injured body until healing removed it. I touched Celine's shoulder and selected the nearest guardian as the receiver. I moved all 80 points. 4 mana paid the fee. Celine's wound closed beneath her torn robe. The Guardian's chest split open. She looked down at smooth skin, then at me. "You transferred an old wound. It was less than 1 minute old. That is old to a healer." The speaking crystal carried our exchange to every public mirror. Students around us began shouting numbers. 20 damage here, 35 near the fountain, 2 injured guards by the north pillar. I saw the values before they called them. 43 injured people carried a total of 1,200 points of damage. The Guardians were attacking again. Iris reached me with a leather purse. "I recovered my personal emergency fund," she said. "How much?" 8 gold. "That is not enough for 1,200 points. Your body still has 196 mana. I was hoping to keep some of it." Very selfish. She converted the 8 coins and filled 8 empty monster cores. I kept them at my belt and drew from them as I worked. Then I selected every injured person in the square. My range reached 50 paces. My maximum transaction was 1,000. I moved the first 1,000 points of damage into 10 collection guardians, 100 each. 50 mana left me. Cuts vanished. Broken bones straightened. Bruises disappeared. At the same moment, 10 stone bodies cracked from head to foot. The sound was like a mountain breaking 12 eggs. The 10 guardians fell together. The people watching the city mirrors screamed. The 2 remaining guardians turned toward me. I transferred the last 200 damage points into one of them. It collapsed. The final guardian swung its black chain at Iris. I was 2 steps too far away to touch her. I did not need to touch her anymore. I saw the 2 valid targets. The chain carried 300 points of incoming damage. The empty silver collection pillar behind the Guardian could receive all 300. I moved the value. The chain passed through Iris without cutting her coat. The silver pillar folded flat and slapped the Guardian across the back. It fell face first into the stone. Iris looked at the flattened pillar. "That cost 100 gold. Send the bill to Valric." The square erupted. Students hugged one another and touched wounds that no longer existed. Joran's guards struck their shields with their swords. Barton repeated the total through the crystal. 43 people healed. 1,200 damage transferred. 12 guardians destroyed. Not one student died. The broken guardians released the 9,700 units used in the test as harmless blue light. Nulam's excess returned to 48,000. The numbers appeared on the ranking tower, the city mirrors, and the central wall of the Imperial Audit Hall. Valric stood beside his failed silver formula, while the entire kingdom watched. He could not call the result an accident. The hidden class mark became hot. Publicly moving damage that had already been received revealed another consequence of the same law. My mana capacity rose from 200 to 800. My maximum transfer rose from 1,000 to 10,000 points. My daily limit became 50,000. My range expanded to 200 paces. The power increase made my knees weak for one breath. Then the public ranking tower changed my title. Nolan, Lord of Exchange, Emergency Rank 1. The City Council awarded 300 gold for preventing civilian deaths. Rector Silas publicly restored my frozen tournament prize. My personal funds rose from 335 gold to 635. The merchants watching from the city square pledged another 3,000 gold to an emergency reserve under joint control of Iris and me. They did not trust Valric with it. My money and resources had increased. My status had moved beyond the academy. Valric's status had moved in the opposite direction. He approached the last broken guardian and examined it. He did not order my arrest again. "The collection caused activation," he admitted. "Because you added mana to an excess, or because the payment was insufficient. Let us check the original formula." He looked toward the city mirrors. Too many people were watching for him to refuse. "You will have access until midnight," he said. "If you fail to prove your claim, the full collection begins at sunrise." Dorian objected. "The accountant is manipulating the crowd. He should be confined." He raised one hand. His enchanted blue mantle spread behind him. It contained 300 points of durability, and a restraint spell worth 200 attack points. He cast the spell at me in front of every surviving speaking crystal. I moved the 200 attack points into the stone door of the temporary holding cell. The door slammed open so hard that it struck the wall. Then I transferred all 300 durability points from Dorian's mantle into the same door. The blue cloth became a pile of loose threads. Dorian stood in the square wearing a white undershirt and his silver chain. The reinforced cell door swung back. Joran gave him one helpful push. Dorian flew inside. The door closed with 300 new points of durability. The lock clicked. Barton lifted the speaking crystal. "The former dean has entered secure storage." The laughter reached us from the city streets. Even Valric closed his eyes for a moment. We spent the afternoon beneath the arena. Valric's clerks opened the sealed archive. Wendell joined us with every surviving payment record. Iris covered a long stone table with silver sheets, old ledgers, and copied invoices. The archive chamber looked directly into Nulam's prison. The creature was larger than the academy. It lay curled inside a cavern, half stone and half blue crystal. Copper pipes entered its back. 9 enormous channels left the chamber and disappeared into the earth. 8 were dark. 1 glowed weakly. Every annual payment had entered Nulam through the copper pipes. Nothing had left through the 9 channels for 80 years. Valric touched the silver formula. "The formula states that mana owed to Nulam must be entered as a debit." "That is the translation," Iris said. "Show me the original symbol." One clerk pointed to a small mark shaped like 2 crossed lines. Iris copied it. Then she searched the oldest ledger. We worked until our hands shook and the lamps burned low. At 9 in the evening, Amos arrived with food for the entire archive team. He refused to let Imperial guards stop him. "If the world ends hungry, I will consider it a personal insult," he said. He brought a copper pot of onion soup covered with melted cheese and toasted bread. The onions had cooked until they were sweet and soft. The broth tasted of roasted beef, pepper, and herbs. Long strings of cheese stretched from the bowls. He added crisp cheese toast rubbed with garlic and bowls of sliced pears with cream. Clerks from the academy and the capital ate at the same table. For half an hour, no one argued about which group had nearly killed us. Iris fell asleep against my arm while holding a piece of toast. I removed it before the cheese reached her sleeve. She woke immediately. "I was thinking." "Your thinking was making a quiet breathing sound." "Mathematical breathing." She looked down at my hand supporting her elbow. Neither of us moved for a moment. Then the ancient symbol on the page caught her eye. Iris stood so quickly that her chair fell over. "It is not a debit mark." Valric crossed the room. She placed 3 documents side by side. The same symbol appeared in an old trade account, a foundation plan, and the world ledger. "It means outward balance," she said. "This line does not record mana owed to Nulam. It records mana Nulam must send outward." I checked the values again. Nulam held 48,000 units above its safe capacity. The 9 continental channels required exactly 48,000 to restart their flow. The correct balance was perfect. Valric stared at the proof. "The capital translation has been used for 80 years. "Then the capital has been wrong for 80 years, I said. A clerk near the door turned pale. He held the emergency schedule. "Lord Valric, the collection order was advanced." "By whom?" "The Bureau received your sealed approval 1 hour ago." Valric seized the paper. His face changed. The seal was real. The signature was not his. Above us, 900 silver collection chains rose from the academy floor and locked around the students. The full 50,000 mana payment had begun 6 hours early. The 5th day began with 900 students chained to the floor by silver light. Mana rose from their bodies in thin streams. The streams joined above the academy and flowed toward the broken arena. The central collector had already taken 10,000 units. Students with small reserves were collapsing first. Selene ran among them, but healing magic could not replace mana that was still being removed. Valric struck his imperial seal against the control plate. "Cancel collection." The plate rejected him. The forged order carried his true seal and authority higher than his field command. "We can discuss office security after the children stop dying," I replied. Iris opened the emergency reserve case. The merchants had delivered 3,000 gold in sealed bags. Each bag held 100 coins. Dorian had once called civilian money unimportant. At that moment, it was the largest free source of mana in the city. "How much do you need?" Iris asked. I checked the network. The 900 chains joined at the central collector. That connection changed the problem. I did not need to touch 900 people. The collection spell had made them one magical account with 900 names inside it. The same law still applied. One source, one receiver, one value. The world had connected the receivers for me. "Convert 25 gold," I said. Iris poured the coins onto the black stone table. She placed both hands over them. Gold melted into 500 units of bright mana. I drew the mana into my body in small waves. Then I selected the 10,000 units inside the central collector and the connected student network. My transaction maximum was 10,000. I transferred the full amount back. 500 mana vanished as the fee. Silver light reversed direction. 10,000 units rushed out of the arena pipe, crossed the sky, and divided into 900 streams. Every student received exactly what had been taken. The weakest boy opened his eyes. Mages rose from the ground. The city mirrors showed color returning to hundreds of faces at the same moment, and cheers reached us from the streets. The forged collector responded by increasing its pull. The chains tightened. Valric stepped between me and the control plate. "Stop. That is the idea. You returned the first collection, but the system will now take twice as much. If the central collector breaks while the continental channels remain closed, Nulam's excess will have nowhere to go. Then we open the channels. The restart cost is 36,000 mana." I looked at the gold reserve. "We have almost 60,000. "That gold belongs to the city." Iris lifted one eyebrow. "The city donated it to stop this exact disaster." Valric's hands closed into fists. "I have protected 8 balance sites for 27 years. If you are wrong by 1 point, the return flow will tear open every mana line between here and the capital. If you are right, 140 students die. If I am right, they die instead of 3 million. The central collector reached 20,000 units of pull. Students screamed above us. Valric raised his imperial staff. "I will not allow an untrained boy to gamble with the kingdom." Silver scales filled the archive chamber. They joined into a giant blade above his head. The spell contained 8,000 points of attack. It was strong enough to cut through the cavern roof and the arena above it. The city mirrors showed the capital auditors exactly what Valric was doing. Valric gave me one final chance. "Stand down. Your spell is entered under the wrong column." He released the blade. Iris melted 16 more gold coins. 320 mana entered my body, giving me enough for one more large transfer. Joran stood beside the central control pillar with his sword drawn. His ordinary strike held 60 points of attack. I selected Valric's silver blade as the source and Joran's sword as the receiver. I transferred all 8,000 points. 400 mana paid the fee. Valric's giant blade became a thin piece of silver light. It drifted down and landed across my shoulder like a ribbon. Joran's sword gained 8,000 points. His eyes widened. "Hit the collector," I said. He hit it. The imperial steel cut through the central pillar, 6 locking rings, and the stone platform beneath them. The collector split from top to bottom. The feedback struck Valric. His embroidered coat inflated like a sail and dropped him into the 12 metal cases his clerks had brought. Thousands of formula sheets flew into the air. Valric sat among them with his white hair pointing in 6 directions. Barton's voice came through the speaking crystal. "The imperial calculation has been filed." The Capitol Audit Hall erupted with laughter. Valric knew exactly how many people had seen him fall. The student chains vanished. The public response became louder than the explosion. Valric climbed out of the cases. He did not attack again. He picked one formula sheet from his hair and looked at the reversed symbol Iris had marked. "If we survive," he said, "I will submit a correction." "Use dark ink," Iris replied. "It lasts longer." Destroying the collector freed the path to Nulum and removed the final barrier around the creature. The cavern wall broke. Nulum rose. Its stone shoulders pushed through the arena. Its enormous eye looked down at the city. Blue cracks spread across its body. Each crack contained more mana than an academy tower. The value above its safe capacity remained 48,000. The 9 continental channels remained closed. Iris and I had less than 1 hour before the pressure broke Nulum apart. The public mirrors displayed the creature to the entire kingdom. People stopped cheering. The world balance now had a head larger than the dining hall. Nulum opened its mouth. "Outward accounts closed," it said. "Internal balance exceeds limit. Vessel failure approaching." Valric looked at me. "Your number was correct." His admission traveled through every speaking crystal, and students across the square repeated it. 9 channel locks required 4,000 mana each. The total restart cost was 36,000. Moving Nulum's excess would cost another 2,400 mana under my 5% fee. Iris counted the bags. 2,000 gold will produce 40,000 mana, she said. After the restart cost and your remaining fees, we will have 1,600 mana left. Your calculation assumes nothing else attacks us. The floor shook. A second section of the cavern fell. I will add a small emergency column, she said. Hundreds of students passed the sealed gold bags down to the central platform. Combat students worked beside clerks. People who had laughed at my wooden tag now carried the money that would power my class. When the total reached 2,000, Iris broke the city seals. The watching merchants approved the expense. After the earlier 41 coins and this payment, the reserve fell from 3,000 gold to 959. The largest resource under my control lost 2/3 of its value in one decision. There was no free victory. Iris stood in the center of the gold. Her coinweaver mark shone across both hands. Begin conversion. 2,000 coins rose and melted into a spinning sun of liquid light. 40,000 units of mana pressed against the chamber walls. Iris's face went white. Her class could convert the value, but guiding that much mana strained every channel in her body. Blood appeared beneath her nose. I caught her before her knees hit the stone. You have done enough. 36,000 to the locks, she said. Do not send 35,999. I will be very angry. How angry? Like a refrigerator falling from the 3rd floor? I stared at her. Why did you choose that example? It sounded heavy. Somewhere in the world, my first dead body felt insulted. I guided the converted mana into the 9 channel locks. 4,000 entered each one. The first channel opened beneath the northern tower. The second followed the river toward the capital. One by one, all 9 ancient lines awakened. Across the kingdom, dead ward stones lit for the first time in 80 years. City mirrors showed mountain barriers turning gold, dry healing springs filling, and dark frontier towers coming alive. The witnesses now numbered in millions. The Lord of Exchange recognized the 9 channels as parts of one connected network. Distance no longer separated targets joined by the same magical account. My class advanced under public verification. My maximum transfer rose from 10,000 to 50,000. My daily limit rose from 50,000 to 500,000. My working range extended through any physically connected magical network I could identify. I placed one hand on Nulam's cracked stone finger and the other on the central channel plate. 48,000 excess mana waited inside the creature. The continental barrier waited on the other side. Iris, Wendell, Valric, and 12 Imperial clerks checked the exact amount. The number appeared on every public mirror. If I transferred 1 point too little, Nulam might remain unstable. If I transferred 1 point too much, the missing value would be taken from my body as damage. I began the exchange. The first 8,000 units entered the northern channel. 400 mana vanished as the fee. Pain crossed my arms, and blue lines appeared beneath my skin. I repeated the transfer while Iris, Wendell, and the Imperial clerks called the remaining total. 32,000 remained. 24,000. 16,000. 8,000. Nulam's hand began to cool beneath mine. The final 8,000 resisted. 80 years of pressure pushed back through the channel. My boots cracked the stone floor, blood ran from my palms. The blue lines beneath my skin reached my chest. I could release the transfer and survive. The last excess would then destroy the creature and the arena. Iris pressed her hand over mine. She could not use my ability. She could give me the remaining mana. The final 400 entered my body. "Balance it," she said. I moved the last 8,000. Nulam's excess fell from 8,000 to 0. The continental network rose from empty to 48,000. The account balanced. Silence filled the cavern. Then light crossed the kingdom. Every channel released a wave into the land. Broken barriers repaired themselves. Monster zones shrank away from towns. The sky above the academy changed from blue to gold. Nulam's cracks closed. The giant creature lowered itself beneath the arena. Its stone body returned to the cavern without crushing a single building. Before its eye closed, it looked at me. "Exchange accepted," it said. "World account restored." The city mirrors displayed 4 final values. Student deaths, 0. Mana lost, 0. Continental channels restored, 9. Remaining imbalance, 0. For 3 breaths, no one reacted. Then students shouted, city bells rang, and Imperial auditors threw copies of the old formula from their windows. Barton had lost his speaking crystal during the final transfer. He found another one and screamed into it anyway. "Nolan the accountant has balanced the world." My public title changed again. Nolan, World Auditor, first rank of the royal list. I remained conscious long enough to read it. Then I fell into Iris's arms. I woke near sunset in the academy infirmary. Celine had placed 3 blankets over me and written, "Do not transfer," on the top one. My mana channels felt as if someone had cleaned them with a metal brush, but they were intact. Iris slept in a chair beside the bed. One hand still held mine. Valric waited by the window. The capital confirmed the reverse translation. The false order used a key believed destroyed 80 years ago. "Emmerich," I said. Valric's eyes narrowed. "How do you know that name?" "I do not. Not yet." He placed a royal document on the bed. The king had appointed me independent world auditor. The position carried authority to inspect every balance site and an immediate reward of 30,000 gold. My personal funds rose from 635 gold to 30,635. The city also granted the remaining 959 gold to my new audit office. My strength had increased 10-fold. My resources had increased more than 30-fold. My status had moved from the last name in one academy to the first name on the royal list. 5 days earlier, the academy had valued me below decorative flowers. The flowers sent a congratulation basket. Royce withdrew from the academy. Kellen agreed to repay the civil fund through 10 years of work. Dorian lost his title and was assigned to inventory kitchen spoons under Wendell's supervision. Valric accepted suspension while the Bureau investigated the forged seal. Before leaving, he bowed to us. "I placed lives inside a formula because I believed there was no other answer," he said. "You proved that the formula was the problem. I will use darker ink." That evening, Amos closed his dining room to everyone except the people who had carried gold into the cavern. The room still became crowded. He served whole fried fish with crisp golden skin, lemon, garlic, and green herbs. Bowls of potatoes arrived covered in melted butter and sea salt. There were roasted carrots glazed with honey, fresh bread with a hard brown crust, and small dishes of cool cream mixed with cucumber. For dessert, Amos placed an apple pie in the center of the table. The crust broke beneath his knife. Sweet steam rose with the smell of cinnamon and baked fruit. He added a spoon of cold cream to each warm slice. No one spoke while eating the first bite. Saving the world created a serious appetite. Joran raised a cup to the civil students. Celine raised one to the healed. Wendell raised one to accurate records. Barton raised two because he had lost count. Iris sat beside me. "You owe the emergency reserve 2,000 gold, she said. "The city approved the expense." "I meant that you owe it gratitude." "Can gratitude be paid monthly?" "With interest." "What rate?" She leaned closer and kissed my cheek. The room reacted more loudly than the arena had when Royce flew into the banner. Iris's face turned red. She did not move away. "That was the first payment," she said. "The accounting method seems unusual." "Do you object?" "I require more data." She kissed me again. The second reaction shook dust from Amos's shelves. Amos set another piece of pie in front of us. "The table rent has increased," he said. For 1 warm hour, there were no enemies, no deadlines, and no missing manna. There was food, noise, and a girl whose hand remained in mine beneath the table. Then the black world ledger opened by itself. The dining room fell silent. 9 red lines appeared across the empty page. Each line carried the name of another academy, another sleeping vessel, and another corrupted balance account. The nearest site held an excess of 120,000 mana. The largest held more than 3 million. A signature formed beneath them. Emmerich, first accountant. Newlam's voice traveled through my class mark. 9 accounts remain false. Original auditor active. The first red number began to count down. The nearest balance site would fail in 7 days.